And there's SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5 Plus. A couple of great guests in studio tonight. Of course, legendary Belmont basketball coach Rick Byrd is here, and Scott Ramsey, president and CEO of the National Sports Council. Guys, happy March. Welcome to the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
So much to talk about tonight. Over the course of the next hour, we will break down some of March Madness. Obviously, a tremendous first weekend of the tournament, including games right here in Nashville that Scott had a big hand in. And we'll also get set for the Davis Cup, tennis's grandest stage for team tennis, coming to Nashville April 6th through the 8th, which will be held on the Belmont campus at the Curb Events Center. That'll be April 6th through the 8th. The U.S. versus Belgium in the quarterfinals of that team event. So we will talk about that plenty as we move on throughout the course of the night as well. But first off, Coach, I just want to get your impression as someone who has been in this tournament multiple times. As you think of the first 6 days of this tournament, opening weekend, have you ever seen something that was quite as unpredictable or wacky as what we saw this weekend?
There's been everything, hasn't there? There's been the biggest upset of all time. There's been unbelievable last-second plays and shots and misses and makes and coaches acting crazy, which is unimaginable to me. So no, it's been great. It's aptly named.
Did you ever think, because a lot of people said it would never happen, did you ever think you would see a 16-over-1 upset in the NCAA tournament?
Not by 20 points. I don't think so, really. I don't think that I will say this: the teams are getting closer. The teams that are in the smaller leagues are getting closer, I think, to be able to do that. But a team that had a good year, but not even a great year. Vermont was a much better team in that league throughout the year.
Yep.
To come in and play like they did to beat Vermont after losing to what? Didn't they lose to them by 38 during the year, I think?
Lost by 28 at home.
28 at home.
Also
right.
lost a game by 44 to Albany in the conference. And Albany wasn't the best team or the second best team in the league in the America East. So
Sure.
44 to Albany in
28.
January. Win by 20 against the #1 team in the country in the tournament. That's incredible.
It is. It is. And I felt and still feel really bad for Tony Bennett. No one has done a better coaching job in the past 5 years in this country to do what he's done in the ACC, game in and game out, and to have to suffer through that kind of a loss and what I would say is really undue criticism since that time.
I want to get back to that and what this tournament means for coaches and how people view them and perceive them at some point. But Scott, when we talk about excitement in the tournament, it was hard to beat what we had here in Nashville, wasn't it?
It's pretty electric. You know, I think we were talking before we got on here, to think about, really not the local anchor team that you would maybe have expected this year with a Tennessee or Kentucky or somebody kind of being close in the potting. But then to have the games and the fans turn out, especially from Cincinnati and Xavier, they had a lot of folks here, and it was electric in that arena, and every seat was taken for 2 days and 6 games, and then to have some of the unbelievable finishes, especially Nevada. You know, coming back to win the Texas game in overtime, and then coming back to beat Cincinnati from 22 down yesterday. Just some unbelievable games.
The comeback pack from 14 down against Texas, 22 down yesterday. I know a lot of people, I work with one in the mornings on 102.5, who were pretty upset, frankly, with the draw that we got here in Nashville in terms of not having first off, Tennessee, but secondly, not having a North Carolina or a Duke or a Kentucky or somebody like that. I think a lot of people were disappointed by that, but then you see the games and see the way they play out. That's sort of the beauty of the tournament to me, is no matter who you end up getting, you're going to see a 2 seed go down or a 1 seed go down or a game that goes to overtime or a buzzer beater or something, moments that you're going to never forget, frankly.
And we saw both of that, a 1 seed and a 2 seed go down. I think from our perspective on the business side of that event, you know, I've always felt like the first and second rounds are a little bit better business weekend for us than the regionals were. Even though it's the same bid when you submit it, the NCAA sorts through that and makes those decisions. But I always felt like 8 teams coming in, being a part of that first weekend where you could catch the Cinderella story, having 6 games rather than 3. In this case, having a Friday, Sunday, and having the whole energy around that weekend, I think is a really special part of March Madness. And certainly this weekend's great too, but coming up. But I've always felt like that was a better business play for the city, and I think this year really bore that out. I think we were sold out tight both games, and a lot of people downtown, and the energy and the excitement in our city was second to none, really.
If you walked around downtown or went to dinner downtown this weekend, it was absolutely packed. You throw in St. Patrick's Day, of course, as well. Downtown's always busy, but we're kind of coming out of the part of the year where it slows down just a little bit. It felt like midsummer, or as big of a party as it could be over the course of the weekend. I can't imagine anybody came to town and didn't have fun, unless maybe they're from Cincinnati, given the results of the game.
Cincinnati for a couple fan bases.
It certainly was. It was quieter on Sunday night than it was the rest of the weekend with those fans around. But do you get any sense now, a day after, of just how good the event was, or how good the money was for the city? Any of those types of numbers?
We do surveys on site, so it'll be a couple weeks, and we'll go calculate that. This is the 5th time we've hosted it since Bridgestone Arena has been open, starting in 2000 all the way to this year. And it's always averaged somewhere in that $7 to $10 million for the weekend. I certainly think we met or exceeded that this year, given just kind of visually looking around and kind of seeing the representation of the fans. So it's a very lucrative week, but also then you kind of lay in the number of media that are here for 3 days, experiencing the city. Hopefully that kind of bleeds out. We've seen that bleed out, whether it's the Stanley Cup run, or the SEC tournament, or a bowl game, or hopefully what will be the Davis Cup as well, kind of exposing the city to the media that are here multiple days, which you don't get with a regular convention or just a regular season game somewhere. So I think that, coupled with obviously the national television coverage, is certainly one of those real events that we've been very proud to host for 5 times now.
I heard an anecdote from someone from Cincinnati who said, I had friends who came down the last time it was here. They had such a great time, they said, I have to come back, or I have to come with them this time, and that's why they were in town. So to your point, it's a good recruiting tool.
Yeah, it is, and I think I think there's a lot of credit that goes around. Certainly, Ohio Valley Conference partners with us in that bid, and they partnered with us on the Women's Final Four a few years ago. Certainly thanks to Bridgestone Arena. I mean, there's not many NHL or NBA teams that would vacate their arena there in that last month of the regular season for 2 events. We had the SEC Women's Tournament a couple weeks ago, and then to go on the road again for 3 or 4 days. That's great partnership and willingness to kind of be, the bigger picture, which is a great event for the city.
The Predators are doing fine. They just win wherever they're playing right now, so they'll vacate, go to Colorado, and just keep winning there. Rick Byrd and Scott Ramsey in studio here tonight. And Coach, I want to ask you about something else that happened in the tournament. Lipscomb obviously made it for the first time. I know they're your arch rivals, but Casey Alexander is also one of your really good friends. He played for you, a longtime assistant for you at Belmont. How pleased were you to see, I guess, first off, them win the conference tournament and just get over the hump and get into the tournament for the first time ever?
Well, that's hard to even put into words, because Casey was like a little brother or son, or somewhere in between. As a player, he was such a delight to coach. He was so easy to be. You're not supposed to have favorites, but it was easy for him to be a favorite because he gave all he had all the time. And then he immediately joined our staff right out of playing, and you could see right away how good he was going to be at that. And so to watch that, we've got a great picture in our hallway outside of our locker room of the instant that we beat Lipscomb in 2006 in Johnson City to go to the tournament. In the background of our players celebrating, it's Casey's face and how excited he was, because he was part of the whole tough time of going from NAIA through 5 years or so of exile, practically trying to be a Division I program, and his face tells that story in that picture, and I'm sure he felt that all over again at Florida Gulf Coast on that Sunday afternoon.
I know this is a hypothetical and it's one game and it's hard to put it all on there, but you guys win that game in overtime. You go on to win the next couple of years. what, 6, 7, 8 times overall to get to the tournament now. It took them this long to get back and win it. Have you ever thought about how different things might have been?
I sure do, a lot. And here's how that happened even. James Poindexter made a 3 to put Lipscomb up by 3 with 25, 26 seconds to go in regulation. And Justin Hare came down, a brilliant no call on my part to not call timeout and try to set something up. And he goes in and gets fouled, makes the layup, makes the biggest pressure free throw of all time, I would think, to have to tie a game with 8 or 10 seconds left. Lipscomb misses at the buzzer and we win in overtime. It's just hard to know which direction the two programs would have gone in from that point on, because there's no question that making it helps so much of your program, helps you in recruiting, helps the confidence of your team, gives you credibility wherever you go. And no, I think about how fortunate I was that Justin Hare was on my team that day a lot.
That game in 2006, I didn't live here at that time. I was living in Oklahoma, but that was really my first impression of the Battle of the Boulevard, because I watched on ESPN or whatever it was, just because I'm a basketball junkie, and here it was, these two Nashville schools playing in Macon, Georgia, Johnson City at that time, and I thought, good gosh, this is a great rivalry. And then lo and behold, here I am, and I get to experience it all the time. And for my money, the fact that they get in and do this, I just think it only makes the rivalry better now, because now both teams have been there. You're a little bit more on even footing. He's got a great team coming back next year. You guys reload all the time. So I think it just makes the rivalry better at this point.
You know, there's a lot of success to go around, and it's pretty human for part of me or people at Belmont to sort of not want to see Lipscomb do well.
Sure.
And I'm sure that that's on their side of things as well. But at the end of the day, our team has so much respect for their players, kind of people they are, the way they go about it. And I've had more nice things said to me from Lipscomb folks than by far all the other schools that we've played. So they're good folks over there. I was really happy for them. And, you know, if they'd have made some shots, they'd have given Carolina all they wanted.
Yeah, it's a rivalry, but it's a friendly rivalry in that, with a lot of respect to go around. Rick Byrd, Belmont basketball coach, Scott Ramsey, president and CEO of the Nashville Sports Council. Our guest tonight here on SportsLine. Our phone lines are open, by the way, 737-7767. We can take some of your calls as well. We'll come back. We'll continue a little bit more with some hoops talk. Then we will transition into the Davis Cup, headed back to Nashville for the first time in 40 years. A great event for tennis fans, for sports fans in general. It's coming up on the Belmont campus next month. We'll get back with more of that here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.